June 6, 1944. 6 o'clock in the morning, 10 miles off the coast of German-occupied France. The English Channel is a churning mass of slate-gray waves. Inside landing craft LCVP-22, 32 men stand shoulder to shoulder, packed so tightly their canvas field packs press hard against each other. The diesel engine roars beneath the steel floorboards, vibrating through heavy leather boots already soaked in freezing bilge water. Most of these soldiers are barely 19 years old, boys from small farming towns in Virginia and Maryland who have never seen the ocean before this week. For 3 agonizing hours, this flat-bottomed boat has pitched violently through 5-foot swells, tossing freezing sea spray over the high wooden gunnels. The air inside is thick with the suffocating stench of diesel exhaust, damp wool jackets, vomit, and the unspoken taste of absolute terror. Nobody speaks. You grip your waterlogged M1 Garand rifle, wrapped in a clear Pleo film bag, praying silently that the moisture has not fouled the firing pin. Every few seconds, a massive wave crashes over the bow, drenching your steel helmet and sending freezing salt water down the collar of your neck. Across from you sits Sergeant McIntyre. His face is pale green from seasickness, his knuckles white as he grips the wet steel coaming. Behind you, the naval bombardment rumbles like distant summer thunder, but the coastal smoke is thick, obscuring the cliffs ahead in an ominous haze. The heavy Allied bombers were supposed to obliterate the coastal defense bunkers minutes ago, but their payloads fell miles inland behind the cloud bank. The German defenses on the high bluffs are completely intact, silent, waiting with cold discipline behind 2 feet of reinforced concrete. The coxswain yells from the rear cockpit above the grinding diesel engine. 1 minute to touchdown! Lower your heads and check your gear. You look down at your boots, sloshing in 6 inches of vomit and seawater. Your entire life has narrowed to the width of this steel ramp. The flat bottom of the Higgins boat scrapes violently against a hidden sandbar with a bone-jarring shudder. The engine screams into reverse. Time stops. The steel bow ramp drops forward with a heavy mechanical clatter, splashing face first into the cold Atlantic chop. Instantly, the gray world outside erupts into a terrifying storm of noise that tears through your chest like physical blows. A German MG-42 machine gun, firing 20 rounds every single second, opens up from an unseen pillbox perched high on the cliff above. The sound is not a rhythmic tapping. It is the terrifying, ripping sound of tearing canvas, echoing across the open water. The first rank of 6 soldiers steps off the ramp into the foam. Before their boots can touch the sand, they vanish into the spray. The steel interior of your landing craft rings like a cracked bell, as dozens of armor-piercing bullets riddle the thin bulkhead walls. Sergeant McIntyre screams, "Over the sides! Don't bunch at the ramp! Roll over the sides!" His voice is barely audible over the roaring surf. You throw yourself over the wooden gunwale, into the freezing water, plunging straight into a deep underwater sand channel. The weight of 70 pounds of equipment, wet wool, ammunition belts, trenching tool, grenades, instantly drags you toward the seabed. Under the water, the deafening roar of machine gun fire turns into a muffled, eerie thrum accompanied by white bubble trails cutting through the dark green. You kick with all your strength against the heavy mud, gasping as your helmet breaks the surface into the stinging salt air. All around you, the ocean is boiling with mortar geysers and snapping bullet impacts that send sharp plumes of spray into your eyes. The landing craft behind you takes a direct hit from an artillery shell, disintegrating in a sudden orange flash and rising black smoke. Only 30 seconds have passed since the metal ramp kissed the sandbar. Out of 32 men in your boat, barely 6 are still swimming. You are alone in waist-deep water, 300 yards from the base of the cliffs, staring into the open teeth of Fortress Europe. The tide on Omaha Beach is coming in with ruthless speed, rising 1 vertical foot every 10 minutes across the flat, wet sand. If you stay in the deep water, you will drown beneath the sheer weight of your combat pack. If you stand up, you are instantly targeted. You drop to your chest in the shallow surf, pushing your rifle forward with trembling fingers, inching across the wet-ribbed sand. Scattered across the tidal flat are hundreds of wooden posts, steel check hedgehogs, and Belgian gates rigged with waterproofed teller mines. A young private from Baltimore crawls beside you, his eyes wide and unblinking beneath a helmet smeared with gray sea foam. You both press your faces into the wet gravel behind an iron rail beam, feeling the cold vibration of bullets striking the opposite side. The beach ahead of you is completely flat, 300 yards of open gray sand with 0 craters and nowhere to hide. From the heights of Widerstands Nest 62, German gunners look down with unobstructed fields of interlocking fire across the entire sector. Mortar rounds land in rhythmic patterns along the water's edge, tossing up columns of wet sand and dark shale stones. You watch a soldier lose his helmet to the surf. He reaches to grab it, but the current sweeps it away into the foam. Every wave that washes over your shoulders pushes you closer to the beach, but it also carries the wreckage of broken wooden crates and lifebelts. The salt water burns your eyes, and your hands are numb from the cold, barely able to feel the steel trigger of your Garand. "Keep moving!" a distant voice shouts down the surf line. "If you stop here, you're dead! Crawl with the tide!" You drag your body through 2 inches of water, feeling the coarse sand grinding into your knees and elbows through torn wool trousers. Behind you, the Atlantic waves roll relentlessly ashore, carrying a faint, heartbreaking ribbon of pale crimson toward the gray horizon. After 40 agonizing minutes of crawling through the surf, your fingers finally touch the loose, sloping stones of the Shingle bank. The Shingle is a narrow embankment of smooth gray shale pebbles, piled 4 feet high by centuries of Atlantic storms. Here, pressed flat against the wet stones, hundreds of exhausted, shivering men from different companies lie huddled shoulder to shoulder. Nobody is firing back. Rifles are choked with wet sand, radios are destroyed by salt water, and all command hierarchy has dissolved. You collapse against the embankment, your chest heaving as freezing seawater drains from your jacket sleeves into the gravel. Just 6 feet above your head, a thick concertina wire fence stretches along the base of the bluff, studded with wooden mine warning signs. German snipers on the upper ridge methodically pick off anyone who attempts to raise their head above the crest of the stones. Beside you, an infantryman is frantically pulling the operating rod of his rifle, trying in vain to clear a jammed cartridge coated in grit. The beach behind you is a graveyard of burning landing craft, sunken amphibious tanks, and discarded equipment floating in the rising surf. A high-explosive mortar shell detonates 30 yards to your left, raining sharp stones and hot sulfur smoke down upon your shoulders. Men are crying out for their mothers, for water, for dry ammunition, but the continuous roar of the battle swallows every individual voice. You reach into your jacket pocket and pull out a soggy photo of your family wrapped in wax paper, checking that it is still intact. For a brief, terrifying moment, you realize the invasion might be failing, that this thin strip of pebbles might be the end of the line. The gray Atlantic tide continues to rise at your feet, slowly swallowing the very stones you are desperately clinging to for cover. You cannot stay here. In another 30 minutes, the water will force every living soul out into the open bullet sweep. Amid the chaos of the Shingle bank, a lone figure moves without a weapon, wearing a faded red cross painted on a dented steel helmet. Combat medics on Omaha Beach carried no carbines, no pistols. Their only weapons were canvas pouches filled with morphine and bandages. You watch a young medic kneel out in the open gravel, using his own body to shield a wounded soldier from whizzing shrapnel. Most of their medical supply crates were lost when the wooden supply boats foundered in the heavy offshore swells during the run-in. With bare, trembling fingers blue from the cold, the medic tears open small paper packets of white sulfa powder to sprinkle over open tears. He ties a rubber tourniquet around a soldier's arm, his eyes calm and focused despite the mortar detonations shaking the ground beneath him. There is no dry place on this entire beach. Every bandage soaked through with salt water the moment it was pulled from the rubberized kit. A wounded boy grips the medic's sleeve, whispering a desperate question. "Doc, am I going to make it home to Ohio?" The medic smiles softly, with weary, gentle eyes, patting the boy's cold shoulder. "You're doing fine, soldier. You're going home." He writes a quick morphine dosage note on the wounded boy's forehead with a grease pencil, then immediately crawls toward the next cry. Out in the shallow foam, an abandoned plasma bottle hangs from an overturned wooden rifle stuck bayonet first into the sand. These unarmed medics ran into the open surf again and again, dragging drowning comrades out of the rising tide before they slipped beneath the waves. Many of them were struck down while administering aid, their white armbands offering no protection against indiscriminate artillery barrages. Watching them work with quiet, selfless dedication slowly thaws the paralyzing terror that has gripped your chest for the last hour. You realize that survival on this beach is not about personal luck. It is about refusing to let the man beside you die alone. At 8 o'clock, a tall officer with a silver star on his helmet strides upright along the shingle bank, ignoring the sniper fire. It is Brigadier General Norman Cota, Assistant Commander of the 29th Division, carrying a simple Colt 45 in his hand. He looks down at the huddle of pinned soldiers, his voice cutting through the artillery thunder with calm, razor-sharp authority. "Two kinds of people are staying on this beach," Cota tells the men. "Those who are dead and those who are going to die. Now let's get the hell out of here." A spark of collective consciousness ripples through the wet shale stones. Men begin cleaning the sand from their rifle breeches. Two combat engineers crawl forward on their bellies, dragging long steel pipes packed with TNT, Bangalore torpedoes, toward the razor wire. They slide the metal tubes beneath the barbed wire entanglement, connecting the detonator pins with steady, deliberate hands. "Fire in the hole!" A sharp shout echoes down the embankment, followed by an immediate thunderous crack that rips the wire to pieces. A shower of sand, shredded wire, and smoking grass rains down over your helmet as a narrow gap opens through the German minefield. Sergeant McIntyre racks the bolt of his M1 rifle, looking directly into your eyes. "Miller, grab your ammo belt. We're moving on 3. You look at the sheer 100-foot bluff rising above you. The path is steep, laced with hidden wooden shoe mines and machine gun nests. Your boots are heavy with water, your knees are bleeding, but the paralyzing fear in your gut has transformed into a cold, stubborn resolve. Down the beach, a soldier raises the blue and gray flag patch of the 29th on his shoulder, shouting their historic battle cry, "29, let's go." You chamber around into your Garand with a satisfying mechanical snap. The long 30 seconds of waiting at the water's edge are over. You rise to your feet in the sand, lean into the steep dirt slope, and charge through the smoking breach in the wire toward the cliffs. Climbing the bluffs of Normandy is an agonizing struggle against gravity, mud, and continuous rifle fire from the ridgeline above. The sandy earth crumbles beneath your boots as you pull your body upward, grabbing roots and sharp chalk stones with raw hands. To your right, a squad of Army Rangers scales the vertical cliff face using rope ladders and grappling hooks shot from rocket mortars. German defenders roll stick grenades down the grassy slopes, forcing you to press flat against the embankment as explosions shower you with dirt. A soldier ahead of you fires a Browning automatic rifle in short, disciplined bursts, keeping the pillbox embrasure suppressed. Step by agonizing step, small isolated groups of 5 and 6 men advance through the ravines, finding the dead angles where German guns cannot reach. You reach the lower lip of a concrete bunker apron, the acrid smell of burnt cordite and hot steel pouring from the observation slit. Sergeant McIntyre unclips a white phosphorus grenade from his harness, pulls the brass ring with his teeth, and hurls it through the narrow embrasure. A muffled explosion rumbles inside the concrete bunker, followed by billowing white smoke and the sudden, permanent silence of the gun. For the first time in 4 hours, the heavy mechanical hammer of Widerstands Nest 62 ceases its fire across Sector Easy Red. You scramble over the parapet into the connecting trench system, your bayonet fixed, clearing the sandy communication tunnels corner by corner. German defenders, realizing their rear flank has been breached by American infantry on foot, begin abandoning their fortified positions. You pull yourself up onto the grassy clifftop plateau, collapsing onto your back amid wild yellow wildflowers overlooking the English Channel. Your breath comes in ragged, burning gasps, your jacket soaked in sweat and ocean brine, but the sky above is open and clear. You look down at your shaking hands. You have climbed through the very gates of hell and reached the high ground. It is late afternoon. The heavy thunder of coastal artillery has finally faded into the distance, replaced by the crying of seagulls. You stand at the edge of the Normandy bluff, looking down at the 4-mile sweep of Omaha Beach, stretching beneath a pale amber sky. The tide has fully receded, exposing miles of dark, wet sand littered with hundreds of abandoned landing craft, jeeps, and shattered hulls. Out on the water, the massive Allied armada stretches across the entire horizon, hundreds of warships, transports, and barrage balloons swaying in the breeze. Thousands of fresh soldiers and heavy Sherman tanks are now pouring uninterrupted across the sand where you crawled on your belly hours ago. Over 2,400 American boys were killed, wounded, or reported missing on this single stretch of sand before midday. Beside you, Sergeant McIntyre quietly places a wooden cross in the soft grass, resting a dented steel helmet upon its top. The boys who fell in that initial 30-second ramp drop will never grow old. Their youth remains forever anchored to the tide of Normandy. They were not professional warriors. They were clerks, mechanics, high school students, and farmhands who answered when history called. A gentle summer wind sweeps across the clifftop, rippling through the grass and carrying the faint scent of the open ocean out to sea. You look toward the interior of France, where green hedgerows and country lanes stretch toward Paris and the long road to Berlin. The beachhead is secure. Fortress Europe has been breached, not by superior machines, but by the quiet courage of terrified young men. You adjust your rifle sling over your shoulder, take one last look at the gray sea below, and turn to walk inland toward the fighting. As long as freedom endures, the memory of those 30 seconds on the sands of Omaha will echo across the silence of human history. The ramp has dropped, the hill is won, and the world was saved on a narrow strip of French sand called Omaha. Thank you for watching this historic tribute. Don't forget to like and subscribe for more stories of courage and history.